The rumble started before I even saw her. Out here on my ranch, the sound of a bulldozer isn't just noisy, it's a warning shot. My dogs perked up, tails stiff, and the air felt heavy, like it knew trouble was coming. I stepped onto my porch with coffee in one hand, phone in the other, and there she was, HOA Karen herself, in all her smug, bloated glory, perched in the passenger seat of a bright yellow bulldozer like some kind of self-appointed queen of destruction. The machine rolled straight toward my north pasture, chewing up gravel with each spin of its treads. Behind it, a shiny pickup followed, its bed loaded with orange plastic fencing and a couple of clipboard-wielding lackeys. My stomach turned cold. That pasture wasn't just grass, it was part of the original homestead, fenced and recorded in my family's deed for over a century. It held water lines, cattle pens, and the one oak tree where my father carved his initials in 1969. And now, it was in the sights of a woman who thought HOA rules trumped property law. I strode down the porch steps, boots hitting the dirt hard, waving my arms to flag her down. "Stop that thing!" I shouted, but the bulldozer didn't slow. Karen leaned out the side, lips twisted in that condescending half-smile that makes you want to wash your hands afterward. "This area is scheduled for clearing," she called over the roar. "HOA voted last week. You weren't there, so the decision's final." My grip on my coffee cup tightened until I thought the ceramic would crack. "I'm not in your HOA," I yelled back, each word sharp enough to cut. She actually had the gall to roll her eyes. "Technicalities won't matter when this is the new community garden. Besides, it's for the greater good." I felt my pulse hammer in my ears. Greater good was HOA speak for, "I want it, so I'm taking it." That's when I noticed the second twist in this little ambush. Standing on the pickup's tailgate, phone raised high, was Marty Gilman, local realtor, HOA board crony, and the guy who'd been trying to buy my land for the last year. He smirked like this was just a formality, the final step before paperwork changed hands. That smirk lit a fire in me I didn't know I still had. I dialed one number without looking me foreman. "Caleb." "Bring everyone," I said. "Now." I didn't need to explain. Out here, everyone meant every ranch hand within 20 minutes, armed with whatever they had, ropes, trucks, maybe even that old branding iron we keep for decoration but still heats up just fine. By the time the bulldozer reached the first fence post, dust clouds were kicking up from every direction. My crew arrived in pickups, ATVs, even horseback. They didn't wait for orders. Years of working this land together made us a single mind. Within minutes, they'd formed a semicircle around the bulldozer, engines revving, horses stamping, men and women glaring like they just caught a rustler red-handed. Karen froze, her self-satisfied smirk faltering. The driver glanced at her, uncertainty in his eyes. "Keep going," she barked. But her voice didn't carry the same weight now. Caleb rode forward on his mare, stopping close enough for the horse's breath to fog the bulldozer's windshield. "Ma'am," he said, tipping his hat with all the deadly politeness of a man who's not afraid of trouble. "You're trespassing." Karen crossed her arms like she was queen of the world. "The HOA," she started. But Caleb cut her off with a low chuckle. "The HOA doesn't own this dirt. He does." He pointed at me. "And unless you've got a court order in your pocket, you're going to turn this thing around before someone calls the sheriff." That was my cue. I stepped forward, phone still recording, and announced loud enough for the whole scene to hit the video. "Sheriff's already on his way. And just so you know, Karen, this is being live-streamed to about 40,000 people right now." The driver's knuckles tightened on the controls, but he eased off the throttle. Karen's face went from flushed arrogance to pale fury in seconds. Marty tried to jump in, waving his clipboard. "You can't block progress like this, it's legal." But before he could finish, my neighbor Loretta pulled up in her dusty Jeep, camera in hand, shouting, "I've got the county survey maps right here. This is his property, and you know it." She shoved the laminated printouts toward the crowd, pointing at the clearly marked boundaries. A few of my ranch hands started clapping, and the sound was as sharp as a slap. Karen turned toward Marty, whispering something, but my camera caught every word. "We'll just come back at night." That one line, caught in crystal clear audio, would be the nail in her coffin. The bulldozer idled now, an ugly yellow beast caged by pickup trucks and horses. Karen was boxed in physically, legally, and digitally. I walked up beside Caleb, looking her straight in the eye. "You step one tread onto my land again," I said. "And it won't just be the sheriff. It'll be a court summons, a civil suit, and every news crew in the county." Her lips pressed into a thin line, but she didn't answer. For the first time, she seemed to understand that this wasn't a meeting she could bully her way through. Karen sat there in the bulldozer cab, gripping the armrest like it might keep her throne intact, eyes darting between the growing crowd and the slow, deliberate approach of Sheriff Callahan's cruiser kicking up dust on the road. The sheriff was a man who believed in letting people dig their own graves before stepping in, and from the smirk tugging at the corner of his mouth, he'd been watching the live stream long enough to know exactly what mess he was walking into. He parked, tipped his hat, and said in a voice that carried across the pasture, "Afternoon, folks. Now, who's gonna explain why there's a bulldozer parked on Miller land without permission?" Karen puffed herself up, trying to salvage control. "Sheriff, this is authorized by the HOA." He held up a hand, cutting her off like a traffic light slamming red. "The HOA doesn't supersede private property law, Karen. And unless you've got a signed court order, you're trespassing. Driver, shut that thing off and step out." The engine coughed into silence, leaving only the sound of horses shifting and the low murmur of onlookers who'd stopped on the roadside to film. Then came the twist I didn't see coming. Sheriff Callahan turned to the crowd and nodded toward a figure stepping out from a dark SUV at the fence line. It was Evelyn Ross, the county commissioner, a woman I'd only spoken to twice in my life, both times about land conservation grants. She crossed the field in polished boots, holding a thick folder. "Mr. Miller," she said warmly, "I thought you'd like to see the letter your lawyer's office sent me yesterday. The one about registering this pasture as part of the county's historical farmland program." She opened the folder and read aloud for everyone, including every camera, "Any alteration, excavation, or commercial development within the marked boundaries will constitute a criminal offense under state conservation law." The gasp that went through the crowd was like wind catching dry leaves. Karen's face went from red to the color of curdled milk. "You can't just," she started, but Evelyn's voice sliced clean through. "We can, and we have, effective as of this morning." She handed me a copy, my name printed in bold across the top. The sheriff gave a low whistle. "Well then, sounds like any damage done here today could carry felony charges." He turned to Karen. "Ma'am, I'm going to need you to step down from that machine." Karen's driver didn't wait, climbed down and backed away, muttering something about not losing his license over this. Karen, though, clung to that seat like it was a lifeboat, refusing to move until Caleb's mare shifted forward, the animal's bulk blotting out the sun over her. Finally, she slid down, boots sinking in the churned dirt, trying to hide her shaking hands. The cameras caught every second, every glare, every twitch. Marty Gilman tried one last desperate play, raising his clipboard like a shield. "This isn't over," he spat, but Loretta stepped in so fast he nearly stumbled backward. "It's over, Marty. I've already emailed these videos to every homeowner you've been sweet-talking for your land grab. You'll be lucky if they don't tar and feather you." By the time the sheriff had taken statements, the live stream had hit over 120,000 viewers. Comments flooded, and farmers from 3 states over offering to testify about HOA overreach, lawyers quoting property statutes, city folk saying they'd never realized this kind of thing happened outside TV dramas. The tide had turned, and it was sweeping Karen straight out to sea. 2 weeks later, the county filed formal charges against her: trespassing, attempted destruction of protected property, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Marty got slapped with aiding and abetting, plus a nice fat investigation into his real estate deals. The HOA board, suddenly terrified, held an emergency vote to remove her as president. The footage of that meeting, her stomping out as members refused to make eye contact, went viral on its own. But the best moment came the day I hammered the new sign into the pasture fence: "Protected historic farmland entry by permission only." My ranch hands gathered around, hats tipped, smiles wide. Evelyn Ross showed up, too, shaking my hand and telling me the county was using this case as an example for statewide HOA reform. Karen's old bulldozer stunt had backfired so hard it turned into legislation. Now, any HOA in the state has to file property claims with the county before touching a blade of grass outside their official boundaries. No more backdoor land grabs. No more pretending community good means personal profit. Sometimes, justice doesn't just mean winning, it means building something solid enough that the same fight never happens again. As I watched the sun dip over the oak tree, my father's initials catching the last gold light, I realized Karen's bulldozer hadn't destroyed a thing. It had built a wall around my land higher than any fence. What do you think was standing my ground? The only way to stop her, or should I have handled it differently?